Yeah. Sports reports, no gimmicks, no clowns. 2-5, Mr. Logical, we run this town. Real talk only, no chasing, no doubt. From the east to the west, it's the order we shout. Mic check, lights flash, game time, stay ready. 2 vets in the zone, keep the pressure real heavy. Big hits, big plays, yeah, we breaking it down. Truth rings in your speakers, every word is the crown. From the north side hustle to that southern flame. Midwest grind, west coast of the game. Sports talk kings, yeah, we wear that crown. Turn it up, let them know it's about to go down. Sports reports, no gimmicks, no clowns. 2-5, Mr. Logical, we run this town. Real talk only, no chaser, no doubt. From the east to the west, it's the order we shout.
It's about to go down.
Is it about to go down? Or has it already been brought in? Sports Reports is ordered in your ears. Those are the sounds that you're hearing, brought to you by the one and only world-renowned, world-famous Mr. Logical. And I am your unorthodox statistician down here in the Alamo. I go by the name of 2-5. Tonight, we got some NBA talk for you, little bit of college football, time to talk some NIL. And of course, we're going to go over our perfect conferences. How would the conferences look if we were in charge? And guess what? The calendar has turned March, just in case you haven't noticed. So we got a little college basketball for you. But first, like, review, subscribe, share, rate, do all the free things, do all the good things. Liquid Death in hand. Make sure you get that strawberry terror. You know what I'm saying? We are everywhere you get your podcast. So it's Say Less, Say More. Let's get right into it. Mr. Logical.
I'm
so
listening.
The other night, I had a dream.
Ooh.
I was watching the NBA, and I thought, like, yo, what is Ivan Drago doing on a basketball court? And then when I turned around, it was actually Jokic. That look in his eyes, I ain't even gonna lie to you. That was terrifying, bro. So are we headed towards a rivalry here with the Thunder and the Nuggets?
Nah, one team's way too young. I think we'll get, if they match up in the playoffs, I think it'll be intense. I don't think Jokic is going to grab anybody by the collar again, nor do I think anyone's going to try that little sneaky stuff that Dort did, because it's one thing to do something on the court and get called for it, but then to act as if nothing happened. I think that's the most. It's ridiculous because you got called on, especially something like that, away from the ball, where all focus can be on you. I'll give you an example. The other night, my son's high school team was in a, very intense basketball game. We got the city school and we're the country school. They got the high flying athletes. It's their home game. Student sections crowded. And one guy was taunting and he was clapping and like talking to one of our best players, right? In his face, like clapping in his face. Fourth quarter, intense, like maybe 4 or 5 minutes left. Clapping, talking in his face. We all seen it. It's on the sideline in front of the scorer's table, in front of 2 referees. He gets called for the technical right in front of his coach. Everybody's like, what? Like, what do you mean, what? We all seen it. So when Lou Dort, like, literally stopped and stuck his right leg back and tripped Jokic, to turn around like, what do you mean? I didn't know this 7-foot dude was behind me running and kicked my foot and fell. It's like, one thing if it's like, you bumped him off a rebound and he fell, he tripped over somebody else. But like, yo, it was you and him 75 feet from the hoop. You stopped and stuck your leg out and he fell. And you're like it's not cameras everywhere. And that's the part that bothers me the most. It's like, dog, either you are just a dumb criminal or you just trolling. Because like there's cameras literally everywhere, especially on Jokic. So that look that he had in his eyes was that Eastern Bloc look that I was telling y'all about. Like, they're not out here worried about, how you grew up or how tough you are from Canada or wherever you are. It's like, yo, I grew up in a war-torn area and I made it out. I will rip skin off of you right now from all these people. And that's what that look was.
Well, like it was crazy because, we were talking about something like this last week where we were talking about how OKC gets away with a lot of holding, a lot of grabbing, those type of things. So I think Lou Dort was legit surprised that they called that on him, especially when you go back and consider what he's been doing throughout this season. He's been hitting people in the nuts. He's out here, I saw the clip a couple of times where he was going after Wemby. Like, there are literally compilation videos on these here internets that you can find Lou Dort doing this type of stuff. And to make it even worse, it's one thing for Lou Dort to do that. Like Tim Duncan used to do the thing where he get called for a foul and he's like, but like OKC's coach Daigneault is playing along too. Like, well, I guess like if it's a superstar, or like I guess if it's this, like you're gonna call. No, it was blatant. It was disgusting. It was, and especially
in the middle of the basketball court, and it just was the two of them right there.
Well, especially considering that Jokic is just fresh off of a knee injury, like a little over a month ago. So you know what I mean. So like that's number one. Then
they had last week with a guy tore his ACL getting body checked by
Tari Eason, yeah, and then you had so the melee happens. The other J-Dub comes over and grabs Jokic's jersey, and like I don't know, man. I was like, y'all are lucky these people are holding on to that bull right now because he would be like lighting shit up right now. As far as if it'll become a rivalry or not, it's a little tough to say. I'm gonna say yes because I think that these are the two teams in the Western Conference that I feel like I could depend on. Like Denver has the best player, and of course I've been waiting out for Aaron Gordon to get back. OKC is the best team, and maybe he has the MVP, and they went 7 last year. You know what I mean? And Denver has fallen again, these last couple of weeks to where this could be a second round matchup versus having to wait to the conference finals to get it. So I like it. I like where it's going. I'm going to pull up the brackets here in a second. But, in other news, it sounds like Jason Tatum might be back on Friday.
That would be like adding 50 more F-35s to a fight when you already have 150 more than your opponent. It's just unfair. It's just unfair that they get to bring that kind of, and even if they bring them back slowly, imagine him and Peyton Pritchard coming off with your second unit. Imagine that's your second unit. Like, imagine you're the second unit from Orlando and you guys all check in, 9 minutes left in the second quarter. Here comes Jason Tatum and Peyton Pritchard.
Right.
Two guys that can give you 30. And now it's like, hey, man, you got to guard. You got to switch that. You got to stay on that. It's like, no, I'm not guarding 2 all-star caliber players and you giving me bench minutes. Like I'm not going to be out here embarrassing myself trying to guard these 2 guys that are, going to give me buckets
right
the whole time I'm out here. So that's one thing. That I think that's probably key. I heard some just one like podcaster I believe out of the Boston area, and he was saying like all you people saying he should wait and shouldn't come back. He's like, first of all, if you're not his doctor, why do you have an input? Secondly, if you're not him, why do you have an input? If the doctor says ready, he feels like he's ready, he's gonna go. So it's like an embarrassment of riches for Boston. I think that kind of, I'm going to say, changes my Detroit piece because they still got to work him back in. He still has to work himself into shape. He still has to trust, that dribble drive. He still has to trust diving on the floor for a loose ball, like that quick, sudden movement. But, you're looking at March 4th. So you got him playing March 6th.
Mm-hmm.
If he's feeling like himself by April 10th, 12th, about 40 days, 37 to 40 days. If he's feeling like himself, they're looking like they're 1-2 in the East right now, right?
Yes.
So they're 1-2 in the East. So they don't meet up until sometime in May.
Yeah, April 10th is the last game of the regular season. Or I'm sorry, April 12th is the last game of the regular season.
You got the play-in game, so that buys you about 4 or 5 calendar days.
Mm-hmm. Something
And
like that.
then you got your first couple of rounds that's going to take you at least 2 weeks, if not longer, because I think your
Right.
first 7 games take about, I think they go about 10 days for 7 games if it goes 7 games. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
he could be fully ingratiated back into the rotation by early May. And if they make that Eastern Conference matchup and it's Boston versus Detroit, and Boston's got a fully healthy Jason Tatum back, yeah, that could be a dangerous round for the Pistons.
Yeah, so I'm looking at this, and I mean, I am one of those people that is like, oh man, like I hope something bad doesn't happen because unfortunately, the thing that pops into my mind is Klay Thompson. Where he had got the injury, and he got hurt like not even in the NBA game. He was off somewhere else playing and got hurt the second time. So, but that's fresh in my mind. You know what I mean? Because that's a big name. Obviously, they were, a
Well, those
championship.
injuries were like in reverse. It's like he had the ACL, and then maybe he was compensating for the ACL and the tore the Achilles.
Right, right. So,
So
I think Boston is. I think they win the East if he can come back and just be, I'd say, 65 to 70% of himself because he also has value as a decoy. You know what I mean? Whereas, like, just having the ball in his hand demands a certain attention. Right. It demands a certain attention that's going to make Derek White's shots a little bit more open. That's going to make Pritchard get some better looks. And now they have Vucevic that can stretch the floor too from the center position. So I think Boston's going to be sitting lovely if he comes back. But looking at this, we got Detroit as the first seed, and then Boston as the 2, of course. So Boston is already in for a treat because as of today, they would get the winner of this Heat, or I guess they would get the 7th seed. So you got Magic at 7, Heat at 8. And then you got the Hornets at 9 and then the Hawks at 10. And I think if you're Boston, you play any of those teams and you feel pretty comfortable. Even
any
without
7, 8, or any of the 4.
Any of them, any 4 of them.
Okay.
I think you feel pretty comfortable without Jason Tatum, like even if he wasn't there, because we talked about Orlando and how disappointing they've been all year. And you got Jamal Mosley in these press conferences talking about players just got to play harder. And then you got Paolo talking about, like we don't have no halftime adjustments. Miami, they have the Eric Spoelstra, stimulus, but that roster is just not good this year.
Yeah, it's only like he's made, I mean, he's turned water into wine a lot.
Right.
But I don't think there's enough water in that cup for him to keep doing it.
Right. The Hornets are on this streak that they've been on for the last month or so. You know what I mean? But they're still young. They're not ready for the moment, I don't think. Con Knipple is probably going to win Rookie of the Year, but I just don't know if they're ready for this moment just yet. And then the Hawks, no Trae Young. They traded him. They traded Porzingis. Jonathan Kuminga's looking good, but I don't know if they have anybody. If you're Boston, they don't have anybody that you look at and go, we got to worry about this guy taking over. You know what I mean?
There's too many teams in the playoffs. It's rare that
definitely.
It's rare that, like, I know the Lakers were a 7 seed and they beat Memphis, but I think Memphis was down Ja Morant for like a game and a half. Like he was either hobbled for half a game and then left and then didn't play a whole another game. So it's like when a star doesn't play a game and a half and it was ineffective for one of those games completely in a 7-game series, that can match up. But it's unlikely that a 7 or 8 on either side makes a run. So, like I said, stretching out to 10 is very tough. It's like your middle tier teams, 3, 4, and 5 have a shot. 6, maybe.
Well, looking at this, Joel Embiid right now is out with an oblique injury. He's going to miss 3 games, so he'll be reevaluated early next week, and we'll see what happens with him. So, but I don't think that they are. I think they match up with the Knicks okay, but it's just hard to trust them because you just never know what their health is going to be.
Yeah, availability is your best ability, and I think we can say Embiid put up 50 on one leg against them, but it still wasn't enough. And you can't rely on you can't put your body through that and be able to perform, because eventually, like we were screaming last year, we were watching the game, like, yo, just drive to his left and make him go to the right. Like, make him drive with your left hand and make him go to the right, because his knee was like killing him. He couldn't move, and they kept trying to shoot over him. I'm like, he's always gonna be tall, like
right.
But he's not laterally quick, and so if you
we were upset because they wouldn't double him.
Yeah, double him.
He had the knee issue.
Make him dribble away from people running at him.
So they're about 3 weeks away from Paul George coming back from his suspension. So, that'll give them something else if that's the series that we get. As far as the Knicks go, Jose Alvarado has been a great pickup for them. The energy, just the anger that he plays with. Yeah, you know what I mean? And then you got, with the Sixers, they have so much talent, and it's just, I just don't know if the talent all complements each other, because Maxey, is doing his thing. VJ Edgecombs look good.
That balance. I saw a clip the other day, made me think about it, because you and I was talking about, like, how did, Jeremy Kane just get shipped out of the Sixers? And you were saying, well, they got VJ Edgecombs and Tyrese Maxey. I'm like, well, OKC has 5 small guards to include their MVP guard. But yet, when you put McCain and, put him in the game, he's essentially doing the same thing he was doing in Philly. So
yeah, he's been looking good.
The reason Philly couldn't fit that in doesn't make any sense. So it could be a Nick Nurse thing where it's like, maybe he just didn't like the style. Maybe he didn't think his defense was intense enough. I'm like, well,
they still had Quentin Grimes. They still had Kelly Oubre. So that's what I was saying. Like, they just have so much.
Get them shot.
You know what I mean? There's only one basketball.
It's weird. And Golden State was probably the team that they set one blueprint that a lot of teams tried to follow, but they didn't set the other one. They didn't follow the other one, where when Kevin Durant went there, people were saying, where are the shots going to come from? Steph, Clay, Kevin, Draymond got his shots up. Like, people still got their shots up. Andre Iguodala still got his opportunities. Like, you just have to draw it up to where it's not so intricate that guys are passing up open shots because they have these other guys on the team. Because Durant can take 14 shots and in the game with 32 points. Steph can shoot. Steph can just go on a tear where he gets you like 12 points off of 4 threes because he's just running his defender a bunch through screens. Those could be, he can get 4 to 6 shots and get that off. So it's like, I just feel like if you let guys play and let them get shots and let them get opportunities, instead of being so beholden to the plays you call. I think that's JJ Redick's problem in LA. It's like, I get that you have a play, but let the players do their thing, or have a different philosophy for different groups. You can't expect Jerry McCain to play the way that VJ Edgecombs plays. One guy's super athletic and above the rim. The other guy's super efficient with the ball in his hand and, picking his spots to get jumpers. You got to have a different game plan for both of them.
Yeah, so then you got the Cavs. I think that's a pretty easy series for them against the Raptors. But what I'm interested in is that potential second-round matchup with Cleveland and Detroit. They played twice in the last 4 or 5 days now. On Friday night in Detroit, Cleveland went to overtime with them with no Donovan Mitchell, no James Harden, and a crazy call at the end of the game that gave Detroit 3 free throws that put it into overtime. And then Detroit ended up winning. And then last night, they played and, James Harden, but no Donovan Mitchell, and the Cavs knocked them off. So I think that we're getting to a point where I think Cleveland doesn't fear Detroit. I think so. So looking at these teams in this, 3 through 6 angle, I think that Boston would match up well with Detroit because you can't stop Tatum and Brown, or Tatum, Brown, and White. And somebody's going to get hot from three throughout the course of the series. When you look at Cleveland, Cleveland's been playing with them so well, but for whatever reason, the Pistons absolutely own the Knicks. So if you're the Knicks, I think you try to avoid Detroit as long as you can. But over in the West, the Warriors are in a crazy position because they're 5.5 out of the 6th seed. So they're 5.5 games behind the Lakers. They're 3.5 out of 7th. So you're not even hosting a play-in at this point. Then they're 2.5 games in front of the 10 seed. So you got Steph injured, and you're in this purgatory of when do I bring Steph back? You know what I mean? And
since post-championship, they've been in this same spot, and every year they make the wrong move.
Well, I mean, technically, Jimmy Butler is hurt, so we got to take that into consideration too. You know what I mean? They're not full strength, but it is what it is. Porzingis is still missing time. You know what I mean? Kate Cunningham. I know. I agree with you. Kate Cunningham is going to have a hard time, but don't forget, Jalen Duren was an all-star. So, he's got an all-star with him. That he can't necessarily create his own shot.
And Detroit's allowed to play a certain way, the same way like we talk about Golden State. The way Cleveland was allowed to grab. I was watching a podcast the other day with Mon Shepard and Carmelo Anthony. It was like, we played a certain way all year to the point where the refs kind of allowed certain things to go. And I think certain teams play that way. Detroit's one of those teams that plays that way. I think San Antonio plays that way. You talk about OKC. Certain teams have a style and a strategy where the refs are like, well, I can't call everything because then the game won't get any flow at all. But because teams are already kind of geared to playing this way. Golden State, their problem has been they were so good for so long. They were so far ahead of so many teams for so long that they never ever fell back far enough to where they pulled the plug and did a full rebuild. And then when they won again in 2022, it reset that clock again. And now they're in this predicament because I think they were in the play-in a couple years before that. They consistently find themselves in the play-in or near it, but it's kind of surrounded around all these championships.
Right.
So it'll be the same thing this year. They'll probably get bounced in the play-in.
But that's where it gets interesting because, like I said, when do you bring Steph back? Because of where they're sitting in the standings, I don't think it's likely that you're going to catch the Lakers at 6. Unless you just go on the heater and they completely fall apart. So you're going to be in the play-in. So is it worth trying to get that 7 seed and getting the home game in the play-in, or do you just simply say we're bringing back Steph Curry? We don't care who we play, where they play them, and go from there. Because I mean, looking at this, play-in lineup, you got the Clippers, who is getting Darius Garland back now. Portland has Scoot on the bench now. And then the Warriors would be playing the Suns right now. So Devin Booker can match what Steph can put out. Saying it's not exactly a 1-for-1 the same way of scoring, but he can go toe to toe with him.
But if I'm Golden State, I look at, okay, do I have the advantage? Where do I have a definitive advantage against these other 3 teams? I think playing style and probably coaching. If you're Golden State, you feel
it's just the fact that you got Steph, nothing else.
I got that edge. I have the edge there, and I have Steph. So if I can keep him out as long as I can, and then run it with him. But I mean, do you trust the Blazers?
No. And as far as
do you trust?
No, I don't.
Are the Clippers ready to? Are the Clippers ready to wrap this season up?
I mean, the Clippers are going to play hard. You know what I mean? They got Mathurin. Like I said, they're getting Darius Garland back. So, I think the Clippers will be fine as far as getting to the play-in, and they may even get to the playoffs, but it stops there. As far as Denver goes, I picked Denver to win the title. So I'm all for that, but I don't know about this whole losing no more than one game in any West series, because if it lines up like it is today, I might be eating my words, because just like I was talking about how Detroit owns the Knicks, Minnesota's had Denver's number for quite a few years now. And Anthony Edwards, they don't have anybody to match up with Anthony Edwards. And that's the problem, like, whereas with OKC, for example, if they're playing against Minnesota, you could switch off Caruso on them, J-Dub. You could put SGA on them if you wanted to. You
Dort.
could. So you could, you Dort.
Yeah.
You could just throw all these bodies at Ant. Denver doesn't have that unless you're trying to sell me on Christian Brown. That ain't going to work. Peyton Watson potentially off the bench could give some good minutes against Ant defensively, but he ain't going to play but so many minutes.
It's a basketball player that's built like a football player with a football player's mentality. So it's like you need somebody with some girth that can really make it tough on him, because he likes to shoot the three now. He likes to shoot the step back three. His speed and size and athleticism and transition are tough. I think Caruso can handle it, because Caruso has that same type of like burst.
Yeah.
And then he knows his role, and I think he knows I can put 75% of my energy in the defense and then go back to the bench and gear up and maybe a little bit on offense. But I think he knows, like, he's smart enough. I think he can handle that matchup. But you need more than just like one player, unless you have a full-on dynamic Tony Allen kind of player, which teams don't really have anymore.
So if this is how the seeding plays out, if I'm the Spurs, I am licking my chops. You know what I mean? Give me the Suns or the Warriors or whoever from the play-in. I don't care. And then give me the Rockets or the Lakers in the second round. I am loving life if I'm a Spurs fan at that point, because the Lakers aren't going to stop Wemby.
The NBA is so excited for that. If you can get KD versus Wemby for 6 or 7 games, or just Wemby and Luka and LeBron for a few games, they're like, oh, we're back. They're not gonna be worried about tanking or the draft or none of that shit if they get these second round matchups that they want. But the West is gonna be tough. But ultimately, it's in my opinion, it's a 3-horse race between OKC, San Antonio, and I'm going to say Minnesota, just because they seem to always claw their way to the Western Conference Finals.
Yeah,
There's something about the way they play in the playoffs. I know you love Denver. I just think Denver is a rolled ankle away from one side of the floor being completely ineffective defensively or offensively. You know what I mean? Like, one guy not being there, it completely changes the entire dynamic.
The reason that I like Denver, though, is because on top of, they obviously got the man, but but Jamal Murray is also having the best season of his career. Peyton Watson, like when Jokic missed time, a lot of those guys got minutes and they produced. They were leaned upon and they responded. So I think that
playoffs rotations get real tight. I mean,
they do get real tight.
8 guys.
You know what I mean? What I'm interested in is the Rockets, though. That's the team that I want to watch in the playoffs, because, they made the big deal last year. They got rid of Jalen Green after his bad playoff series. So now that you got Kevin Durant in here, like, regardless of how, we feel about Kevin Durant per se, expectations are there, just because you got him. So I want to see this, you know what I mean? Like, I think that they could get past the Lakers. But of course, that's if Luka doesn't just take over the series, because one thing we do know is that when Luka's going to show up in the playoffs, you know what I mean, and he's going to match
the
anything.
The Lakers need more out of their role players all the time, that like more than their role players can really just produce. It's like, especially in the playoffs, it's like they rely on these guys. Like, I don't know if Rui's hit a clutch shot in any situation in the playoffs ever. Like, Vanderbilt's always, like, everybody's so hit or miss to the point where if they're in the second quarter and they're only sitting around 29, 33 points, guys aren't going to shoot the ball. Either they're at home or
that's
the road.
problem.
And that's the problem with the Lakers. Like their role
LeBron
players simply don't rise to the moment.
The Lakers still need LeBron as far as the playoffs go, because Austin Reeves hasn't necessarily played well in the playoffs, but the Lakers need, as they're constructed right now, they need LeBron to go average 26 points in a series or something like that. And he can do it, but he can't do it efficiently like he used to. Because before, if he was scoring 26, it was on 58% shooting or something like that. Now if he's scoring 26 points, it might be 42% shooting.
And I was thinking about his Miami years, that 27, 28 points, 7 assists, 8 assists, and 8 rebounds in a game in Miami is different than the 25, 7-7 that he had a couple of years ago with the Lakers, because it's like that 27, they were running 2 guys at him, and he's finding open guys. And guys are getting buckets, and then he's taking out your best player defensively. I just felt like he had more of an impact besides just those numbers. But let's keep it real. Like, the guy is, a couple of years younger than we are. So the expectation that he's gonna carry this team through this gauntlet is just that every year. I think the Lakers they don't have guys on the team that
because
their definitive role at an elite level. Like, there's no elite defender. There's no guy that shoots a 3 well. There's no guy,
which is crazy because I watch all these shows or I hear these podcasts or whatever, and all I hear, it's almost like the Dallas Cowboys. All I hear about is how talented the Lakers are, and I just say, where? Like I see Luka obviously speaks for himself. Austin Reeves has had a great season. LeBron has the name LeBron, and we know what he's done in the past. Yeah. Outside of that, I don't know. I don't know what the Lakers have LeBron leads you to think that they can make moves.
LeBron going for 30. Nah, Luka still doesn't, let's keep it real. Luka doesn't play any defense, and he complains all game long. Like, he's not focused on. He doesn't always play winning basketball. He plays very selfish basketball. Like, anytime you're complaining to the ref and the guy you're supposed to guard is running up the court, it's not the case. LeBron is old and people can kind of take shots at the armor, but the team in and of itself is not, and they haven't been for a couple of years, as good as their record. It's just not. Dirk was out there. Dirk wasn't a stopper, but Dirk
gave effort.
Yeah, Dirk didn't stop at half court to talk to the ref while his guy ran past him. And Luka's an outstanding basketball player, but the Lakers need everything to go right
every night.
Every night. If not, it's finger pointing, it's guys getting yanked early, it's guys not getting minutes, it's guys playing tight. It's just not as cohesive.
And they still haven't addressed that center issue. So the Rockets are going to have a field day.
Yeah. So
the Rockets are going to have a field day rebounding against them if that's the matchup. Then they get Wemby in the second round.
He don't want to do his job. It's like, I get it that you want to get buckets, but you're an NBA center. You're one of a few guys that are physically where you are in the sport you're playing. You can literally dominate the game defensively, defensive rebounding, offensive rebound. Like, you can do so much with that frame and that ability, but you want to do something else. Like, you want to be.
He's gonna have the nerve to say they want me to be Clint Capella. Clint Capella's probably better than you right now.
Clint Capella will roll and catch that lob and dunk it, or he'll catch James Harden's missed 3-pointers and kick it back out to him. Sometimes that's what you got to do. Is I think that's the problem with the Lakers. They get these names in, people get really hyped and over the top. Very similar to how people feel about the Dallas Cowboys. It's I can keep it real. I still think LeBron is top tier player of all time, but you still need a whole team of guys. If he goes for 35 or 40, he's going to be exhausted the next day.
Right. And we're talking about the playoffs. It's a different game than what you're talking about in the regular season. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of these guys,
and that Rui, was 15 years ago. We keep bringing up the 2011 finals.
Well, I'm talking about the Lakers still.
People bring up LeBron, they bring up the 2011 finals, bro. It is 2026. That's 15 years ago. We can talk
about guys like Rui,
the current stuff.
If you have to rely on a guy like Rui, and I'm not even calling him a bum or anything like that, but if you have to rely on a guy like Rui to be consistent for you to just have a chance to
Especially when
win
they
the
only
series.
give them one, they only give their role players one thing to do offensively. None of those guys can pump fake and put the ball on the floor and try to get to the rim or get to the free throw line like that. Like when they get the ball, it's catch and shoot. So if you don't knock down your catch and shoot threes and you go 0 for 3 or 0 for 4, you're not getting to the free throw line. You're not seeing the ball go through the hoop. They don't call plays for you. If you don't get any steals or runouts or any layups that way, like you're literally just out there hoping your three falls. But there's nothing else for you to do within the offense that allows you to get in the rhythm. That's the problem. The
And you know what
problem
they
is
say?
three guys
Sounds
have
like
the green
coaching
light.
to me.
3 guys have the green light, and the rest of the guys are just struggling.
No, DeAndre Ayton, like you're right in a certain respect, but DeAndre Ayton just doesn't play well. So why would he have a role?
Play a role. Yeah,
Like
play the role of
his
being
role
the big.
is
He's the
his
big,
role
get
is
the
you're the big
rebound,
man, grab the ball,
defend the rim,
you know, what I'm saying,
get
outlet,
rebound.
like, and you ain't doing that. So why would I call anything for you? Why would I have trust in you when you can't do the basic things that which goes to what we've been talking about the last couple of weeks? The NBA product is bad. You know, the center position has basically been phased out in a lot of ways. So, like, what exactly is he supposed to be doing, or what role is he supposed to be having? You know what I mean? That is going to make the Lakers a better team.
Other than what he's physically gifted with, which is you're a big body that plays around the rim. Do everything you need to do around this rim that adds to winning basketball. That's all you have to do. That's how most, like Matt Barnes will tell you. Matt Barnes played like 15 to 16 seasons in the league. All he did was play defense. I know for a fact he can score because he's in the NBA. They all can shoot and score and dribble and drive. They're elite basketball players. But if you want to stay in the league, you have to do that. So he's like, I'm just going to play defense. And if I get an open look from 3, I'm going to try to knock it down. Other than that, I miss it. I'm back on defense. I think Ayton's at the point where his contract says you are a 17 and 11 guy who gets plays called for him, but his productivity is like, yo, you might be a 12 and 14 guy, which will help you guys win more.
And I mean, and this isn't new either. That's the reason Ayton is in LA, because he's been bad the last couple of years. You know what I mean? Like, he got pushed out of that's funny. He got put out of Portland. You know, they went out and drafted Donovan Clingan. You know, they running out here, like Ayton, I don't know. He's a former number 1 pick, and it's disgusting. But it is March. March is here. That means the madness is here. So, Mr. Logical, I was thinking about this the other day. Conference tournaments started this week. You know, the big ones next week, ACC, Big Ten, so on and so forth. But I wanted to ask you, I wrote down 5, but what questions do you ask yourself every year when you look at your bracket before you start filling it in?
How many 12 5 seed upsets am I going to pick? Are the number 1 seeds really number 1 seeds, or do they have number 1 records? And at what point is the tournament just the best 16 teams in the country? Because we know the first couple of rounds, there's an upset. There's something here, there. But once you get down to the Sweet 16, it's like, okay, this looks about right. You got your Dukes, Michigans, Arizonas, Gonzagas, Houstons, UConns, Purdue. You have your teams. Gonzaga's always a great question because they play such great basketball. They run up so many wins. They have a great program, and they consistently put up wins, and they're very competitive when they play in the tournament. It's just that some other team just has the blue chip guy that can break down their fundamentally sound defense.
What up, Riz?
And that's what happens to them. Is like they just end up with the guy. They end up playing a guy like, we'll say a guy like Darren Peterson, who just goes off. He just makes your your stellar defense look bad because that guy is, man amongst boys. AJ DeBonza is probably going to do that to some teams this year. We'll talk about USC as well. So that maybe Boozer is probably going to do the same thing, where it's like, oh, we're just going to box him. We're going to play 1-3-1 and not let him get any, and he's going to turn over his shoulder and shoot fadeaways. I'm like, oh, we can't leave one guy down there. Now we got to rotate to this 2-3, and he's going to flash to the free throw line, get the ball, turn, power dribble, layup, foul, and it's going to be like, whoa, it's nothing we can do. Man to man, can't do that. He's going to beat your guy off the dribble. So certain teams are just going to be able to do kind of what they want just because they have an edge talent-wise. But like before I was go, how many 12-5s and how many 13-4s over matches am I going to pick?
So like for me, some of the questions that I generally ask myself, and I've been talking about this for years, and I'm sorry for the people that have been watching because I'm going to say it again. Why do conference champions play in the first four? That's my first question. You earned your right into the tournament.
Yeah. Yes,
even if you are a 16 seed or whatever the case may be, you did what was required of you to win a tournament spot versus this 12 to 15 loss power conference team that is safely in the bracket as a 10 seed or something like that. Now granted, there are the 12 seeds that play each other as well, but for the most part, I hate the fact that your SCU
68 is ridiculous.
Just go back. I would rather go back to 64, and we'll talk about expansion here in a little bit. Who will be the team that Tennessee should beat but won't? And why does Rick Barnes get a pass for having the offense of John Chaney's Temple in 1990? Every single year, just about, not this year per se, but most years, Tennessee comes into the tournament, a top 4 seed, inflated record. Everybody's saying this might be the year, you know what I mean? And then they come out here and lay an egg. They beat Duke a couple of years ago, couldn't cash in. This is what Tennessee does. They've never made a Final Four in school history. So usually when I fill out my bracket, I go, is Sweet 16 the limit for this team? You know what I mean? Then there's Arizona. Every year I ask myself, is Arizona going home in the first round? It don't matter if they're a 2 seed, 3 seed, because I've seen it way too many times, way too many different teams. You know what I'm saying? I've seen it with Santa Clara back in the Steve Nash days. Princeton just 2 years ago. Buffalo. East Tennessee State, if you show up, you have a chance to beat Arizona. So every year in these brackets, a lot of people pick Arizona to go to the title game. They pick them to go to the Final Four. Make Arizona prove it to you. Then, what is Purdue? I never know what Purdue is. This year is no different. They came into the season ranked preseason number 1. And, in the last couple of weeks, they've been getting their pants pulled down. You know what I mean? Steve Nash. Steve Nash not winning the title does not count as a travesty. But Purdue, they got Braden Smith, probably the best point guard in the country. What are they going to do this year in the tournament is what I say to myself every year when I look at the bracket. And then finally, why? So every year, right? There's a team that we all have. I just talked about, what up, Mike? I just talked about Arizona. You know what I mean? I talked about Tennessee. There is always a team that we pick to go way too far in our bracket every year. So I want to know from y'all too. What NCAA tournament team? Yes, really. What NCAA tournament team do you pick to go too far every year? Mine is Iowa State. Every single year, I pick Iowa State to the Elite Eight or something, and they let me down more years.
I tend to pick a Virginia school to win 2 games, like every year. But I go upsets in the first round. That's why I asked myself, how many 12-5s am I going to do? How many 13-4s? I limited to like 1 14-3. But for the most part, I go pretty chalk with my picks. Like if I'm in a bracket and it's like $10 to buy in, I normally end up somewhere like say there's like 20 or 30 people in it. I normally end up somewhere like wherever the money pays out, where like I get my money back, or I get like $20 out of the pool.
Watch it, Michael.
Because I just after a while, it used to be where these teams would surprise you before everybody was playing everybody, before everybody was on TV. Davidson can come out of the woodworks and shock you. Miami of Ohio, Wally Zerbiak can shock you. CJ McCollum at Lehigh can shock you. But now that these guys are playing like preseason games, they're playing like these tournaments in Puerto Rico, they're playing in these games in Hawaii, they're playing against each other throughout the year. Everybody's on TV. So you know exactly how quick the Wichita State guard is. You know exactly how far the Miami of Ohio best three-point shooter can shoot from behind the line. Like, it doesn't surprise you in game. Like the game where when Kentucky lost to Oakland, the Oakland that's not in California, the one
is that Goki?
Yeah, Goki. I don't think they were on TV. You know what I mean? Like, they weren't on TV. They didn't have any prospects going to the like expected to go to the league. So him just catching fire and having that level of a green light, because you wouldn't think that a coach in college is like, yo, shoot as many threes as you can get up. You guys screen for him and try to get him as open as much as possible. Because he hit, 10 or 11? I think he put him about 20, 22 or something crazy like that. So now that all of that's kind of out of the window, that's why I only pick one. Because after the first round, once we get down to 32 teams, you could just pretty much pick the higher ranked team and most of your matchups and get your Arizona to the Final Four, to Elite Eight. And maybe you make, maybe a mistake there. But for the most part, every team that I pick tends to be in that space because I just go chalk. I don't pick any upsets after 32.
Yeah, usually Creighton is another team that I usually push too far in my bracket as well. I like them a lot the last couple of years.
A 10 seeded Creighton always is intriguing. Like if they're a 10 seed, you just know like that 10 is weird. They play such sound basketball. They play like basketball like Princeton. A lot of ball movement, a lot of guys playing,
but just with a little bit more athleticism. Yeah,
a little bit more. You like some of these shots gonna drop. Yeah, I feel
and to your point, Mike. I'm gonna tell you right now: do not. I repeat, do not pick Kentucky to go far this year. A couple of things that I'm looking forward to with this NCAA tournament. I think we're going to get the Wolfpack in the tournament. So Will Wade of LSU fame, of McNeese State fame, the new head coach there this year. So I hope he gets back into March Madness. Miami of Ohio, the other day I was talking about them because you have all these people on a crusade because of how weak their schedule is that they shouldn't make the tournament. They're undefeated right now, but basically if they were to lose a game, would they still be tournament worthy? They're 30-0 right now. And you're supposed to, Rez, that's your team. They 30-0 right now. You know what I mean? And granted, 3 of those were against non-Division I teams. Their schedule rank is 199 out of 365 teams. So I get why people are down on Miami to some degree. But how you look telling a 30-1 team or a 30-2 team that you don't belong here, but in the same breath,
15 team is going to be in as a 10 seed.
Yeah, like Auburn is sitting here right now with 14 losses, and people are saying, oh, they got the toughest schedule in the country. And my motto about that is, I respect your schedule, but can you do me a favor and win some of the damn games?
Yeah, because you can't go 0-30 with a tough schedule and say, oh, because this team is 30-0 with a weak schedule, you going 1-30 makes your season better.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, Auburn does have a few good wins this year, on the schedule, but they also lost by 30 to Michigan. They lost by 29, another game by 29. But also keep your eye on Akron. If Miami does take a loss, I think it's going to be to Akron in the MAC title game. But Kansas, Darren Peterson, you talked about them. Here it is, Mr. Logical. They are 12-7 in games that he plays. They are 9-2 without. I mean, when he doesn't play. I don't know why that makes sense. You know what I'm saying? Because I guess it goes along the lines of he misses so much time, or I like Liberty too, Mike. Or I think that he misses so much
9
time,
and 2
or he comes
without him and 12-7 with him.
Yes. Yes.
I mean,
Yeah, Duke's going to be a tough out.
Bill Self is he's a Hall of Fame coach, and Kansas is a blue blood, blue chip program that
they are.
He just happens to be a very dynamic basketball player. But they have other players that can run that.
It just goes to show you that
the 3-point line is 20 feet away from the rim. So it's a lot of navigation. Like there's good talented players there. And maybe he sits out the games that are kind of easy, that are winnable. And they kind of know going in like, hey, our second string guard can handle this load. You take this time off. But so that's a strange stat. I'm always wondering, like, how much is he gonna play in a tournament? Is he gonna sit out a game that goes over?
Well, I think a lot of it is. Well, I think a lot of it is he misses so much time because he'll play a game, maybe come out in the second half or something along those lines. So I know this is like kind of crazy to say because we're in March right now, but they don't have a lot of continuity. So it's harder for them it's hard for them, I think, to stay on track because he's so in and out of the lineup that they just never really built any chemistry throughout the course of the season. And when we go back and look at some of these great players, we talk about people like Andrew Wiggins, who was supposed to be, that next guy, that Kobe kind of guy. And, they lost. Yeah, they lost early in the tournament. Kevin Durant won one tournament game, and then lost in the second round. You know what I mean? So outside of like Carmelo Anthony, a lot of times, a lot of these young phenoms and future NBA superstars don't actually go that far in this tournament. Like Cooper Flagg had to run to the Final Four last year, but there's a lot of examples.
Really bad last 90 seconds of that game against Houston. I think they had a winnable lead. They had like a 90, probably 98 win probability, and just had a few bad passes. But to your point, when you're talking about Tennessee and how come he gets off the hook, I believe people look at the NCAA tournament, this particular one for the men's side, as, I don't want to say impossible to win, but very improbable to win it a lot because of the one and done format. A one bad game, or you get 5 fouls in a college basketball game, your star gets 2 in the first 12 minutes of the first half. How much more do you play him in that first half? Does that, you're playing in a tough game, like we talk about the Jersey teams seem to always be, one of these 13, 14, 15 seeded teams that beat a 2 and a 3 and a 4.
FDU was the second 16 seed to win a tournament game against the 1 seed. St. Peter's went to the Elite Eight as a 15.
Go Peacocks. That's my school I go to. So it's like you get the pass of this team went on an incredible run. Like even if when we talk about when the 15 or the 13 seed, when the South Dakota State Jackrabbits at 13 seed beat a 4. We don't talk about how the 4, fumble an opportunity. We talk about, wow, look what this 13 seed team did. It's unlike football, how we were talking about Tulane and JMU, and everyone hates and they want to redo the whole format because 2 teams that they felt weren't worthy of the tournament appearance in football, given an opportunity. But when it happens to basketball, it's different. So I think Krzyzewski coached how many? He won 5.
Yeah, he won 5 championships.
He won 5 championships, and he probably went to like 16 Final Fours or something
Yeah, that sounds about right.
In that range.
Probably 8 or 9 title games.
Boeheim has the one chip with Carmelo. He
In
coached for like
47 years.
47 years, but every year he can go into a top recruit's living room and recruit him because he can say, I am a great coach. Because I don't think the championships, I think championships are the icing on top of the icing of a super iced out cake. Like, I don't think people look at as like a necessity like as they do in football. I think Kalen DeBoer at Bama, before he leaves Bama, he has to win one. He can't take another job and leave Bama without winning a chip at Bama. Like, that's a prerequisite, even though it's just as difficult with the turnover and NIL and everything else. College basketball just gets a pass because of the format of their tournament.
Yeah, and shout out to Nolan Smith, number 1 seed in the OVC tournament, over at Tennessee State. Shout out to Rod Strickland, number 1 seed in the Northeastern Conference at LIU, Long Island, for those of you keeping track at home. Gonzaga, we brought them up earlier. They may get Braden Huff back, their second leading scorer. If they do, it's game on. Navy, I want to see Navy get in the tournament. They're 25-6. This is probably one of their best seasons in school history. A team that I have my eye on is Illinois. I really like Keaton Wagler. Of course, they got young Stojakovic. I think that's a team that can score with anybody, and I think they have the defense that can bust up some brackets. They're probably going to be around a 3 or 4 seed, but that could be a team that goes a lot further. TCU might have stamped themselves last night, but let's talk about BYU for a second. AJ DeBonta leading the nation in scoring. They are now 8-9 in the Big 12 after, having such a great start to the season. They lost Richie Saunders for the season, but I didn't think that would have this type of effect on them. So you might be adding AJ DeBonta to the future NBA star, didn't make it very far in March Madness as well. Yeah. Memphis, Penny Hardaway, 12-17. Oh, you can't lose your job like this, Penny. Cincinnati, last night
that's the thing. But that's
the game.
There's only so much you can do. Yeah, the game is the game.
Yeah, and I think that Cincinnati is on their way to the tournament. They haven't quite punched a ticket just yet, but they've beaten Kansas and BYU in the past 2 weeks. So
they're terrible on the road.
They're terrible on the road. They are
terrible on the road. I think that should factor into it. Like, if you have like a great home court record, but you're terrible on the road, is it just that college home court advantage that gives you the edge? Because if you're a tournament team, if you're a team that should be contending for the national championship, you can't be 5 games under 500 on the road.
Yeah, maybe. Because you get into a league like the Big 12, you got your Kansas, Texas Tech, BYU, TCU, the Houston, who just recently came off of a 3-game losing streak, by the way. So like, these conferences are tough. They are tough. So it's hard to win road games. Is
20 wins the standard? Has the community locked that in the recent years?
Generally it comes down. Back in the day, it was about RPI. Yeah. Now it's about the net ranking. You know what I mean? So like, the net is usually kind of what determines certain things. So like, for example, let me pull this up real quick.
Yeah, I have one about
So I'm gonna pull up the net rankings real quick. And you know what I mean? And the net rankings, are just, it's a crazy concept, just the way that they determine how these games count. But looking at this here, so generally speaking, looking at the top 16 here, pretty much all.
See 14 on the screen.
Okay, let me. But yeah, most of these teams.
If you take the banner row, we'll be able to see it.
That's all right. It's not that important. I'm just trying to, but like, basically, like, these teams are going to make the tournament. I think that Why is this not working? I think that for the most part, these teams are going to be in. These teams that are in your top, I'll say 20. Like all of these teams are going to be in. Where you start to get questionable is, is St. Mary's on the bubble? St. Louis, they started out undefeated and, they've lost got a spanking a couple of weeks ago. So Iowa at 26, that's where you get into, is this a bubble thing? So generally speaking, in most years, if you're about top 32 in the net or RPI, like that is, like generally
That's
your safe zone.
Spot.
Yeah, that's generally your safe zone. But yeah, it's a sports podcast, man. We talk. Sorry. So like, at the end of the day, the net is going to be the determinant factor because a team like Miami, like I said, they're 29-0 or 30-0, and people are still questioning them. You know what I mean? But I don't know. We'll see. Conference tournaments are underway. Get into the big ones next week, and there's going to be a lot of movement. So who's going to be the bid thieves this year? And then, of course, we'll have the breakdown for you once the brackets are here because the madness is on its way. But, college football time. We're talking about the state of Mississippi and how they were trying to pass a bill to make NIL non-taxable. So first, that's a great idea. But as I was looking back around, I think that this is a great way to put yourself in the heart of recruits. But as I was doing some looking, this is not necessarily a new thing, Mr. Logical. So first, while I do this, what are your thoughts on this?
I think it gives every Mississippi school right now, including Ole Miss, especially as the top, they have an advantage that I'm trying to think like how I describe it. All right, here we go. This is how I talked about it at work. You can go to LSU and get $200,000 in NIL. You can go to Mississippi State and get $100,000 NIL money. Both of you can blow it all completely. All the money can be gone. But the guy that got $200,000 from Louisiana State University, owes taxes on that $200,000. The $200,000 is gone. Whereas the kid from Ole Miss or Mississippi State is like, well, that money's just gone. I got jewelry out of it. Maybe I got a little car. Maybe I had a nice little day on a yacht in Miami or whatever the case may be. But that money is gone, but you don't owe anything up to that money. I think that's the difference. Because there's still, like, I don't know how many guys are going to be able to get, extra money, but just being able to just not owe taxes on the back end after you blow the money. Inevitably, you're 19 years old, 20 years old. You might not know to take out 35 to, well, it says 4% went over $10,000. You might not know to take that money out, especially if you have a representative and maybe they get a cut. You think when you supposed to get 200,000 and you get, all the math works out and everybody gets their cut, you get a check for 145,000. You might assume, okay, the taxes must have came out. Now you blow it. And now you owe money on that 200,000 that you earned. Whereas the agent probably knows how to work his money. He doesn't pay any taxes on it. So I think that's the piece. But you still got to have enough boosters that are willing to pay enough players. But it does give them a decided advantage.
Yeah. So, this is the National Conference of State Legislators. And, so as I was mentioning, these are some of the states that have introduced some kind of measure, with NIL. So as we can see here, Alabama tried to exempt the income, from state income tax. It failed. Arkansas, as of last season, actually passed it. So in Arkansas, they're already doing the no tax thing. Georgia has introduced it. Illinois creates a $100,000 income tax deduction for NIL. That's introduced. Louisiana, go figure, failed. North Carolina introduced a 50% tax credit for businesses that make NIL payments. So they're not even necessarily helping the players, they're helping the businesses, you know what I mean, that are investing in these teams. You know, Jersey's in the building. Same thing as Illinois with this $100,000 income tax reduction. South Carolina has introduced all NIL earnings. So this is going to be something that Ole Miss, if they pass it, they may get a year or two advantage out of. But I think this is starting to become the wave. And, you know, you already got states like Florida, Washington, and Tennessee that don't have state taxes already.
If Ole Miss flips a few guys before these spring games start, and all of a sudden guys who said that they were going to go to all these other schools just flip and they go to Ole Miss, and Ole Miss runs the table next year, it's going to pass in Alabama. It's going to pass in Florida. It's going to pass in Georgia. It's going to pass in Ohio. It's going to pass in Michigan. California might be too greedy to let it slide, but your traditional powerhouse states, Pennsylvania, so Pennsylvania, Michigan, Ohio, Alabama, Georgia, Florida, Louisiana, South Carolina, you can guarantee if Ole Miss flips guys that are supposed to go to Houston or Texas A&M or wherever they're going, if they flip those guys go to Ole Miss and they run the table. I mean, and they run it like 2019 LSU ran it. Oh yeah, it's getting approved. It's getting approved, and every state that has a school in the SEC, I'm gonna book that. Every state that has a school in the SEC, it'll get approved in some form. Either it's going to be a tax deduction, or it'll be no tax up to $999,000. So guys will sign $999,000 NIL deals and not $1 million deals. Mm-hmm. It'll be something. It'll be something for everyone so these schools can benefit.
Yeah, and you brought up why does NIL not seem to be such a big deal in college basketball versus the way that it's talked about in football. And I think there's a couple of very simple answers. You know, one, the number of players involved, you know, because these college football teams have 85 scholarship players, whereas basketball only has 13 or so.
But that should drive the conversation even more, because in basketball, if AJ DeBonsa and Derek Peterson both went to BYU or both went to Kansas because of NIL money, book it. That's the championship team.
Not necessarily. I mean, we had a team with Zion Williamson, RJ Barrett, Cam Reddish that didn't even make the Final Four.
Yeah, they had a good. What Zion was injured, he was coming back from injury, and
he played the whole tournament.
They missed a couple of free throws. I mean, it happens. But if you're gonna put
Texas
the guys that are gonna go
Durant and Augustine, you know, like that's what I'm saying. That's what I was saying earlier. Like, you look at these teams throughout the years, and there's teams that don't make it very far that you just scratch your head and go, "How did that happen?"
Well, that's probably partly coaching, because the coach wants his stamp on the game. But I know, I just feel like I think people like NFL more. I think people have more. I think more people are NFL fans, so they are more aware of the top tier college football players and programs.
Yeah, which goes into media coverage and ratings and all that too.
I think basketball schools, you have your traditional teams you could probably book for the top 8.
So last year.
You got Duke, Kentucky. Yeah, Duke, Kentucky, UNC, like your true blue bloods. Like, they're going to probably be the top 8 to 12, you know, every single year. Whereas football, they only want a certain number of teams, and then they want players from those teams. And I think people just don't pay enough attention to college basketball, because I don't think they pay enough of attention to the NBA as a fan.
I think that you know, and real quick, you know, like last year, right? You know what I mean? You know, Cooper Flag and Con Knipple about to finish 1-2 in the Rookie of the Year race. You know what I mean? And they didn't win the title. But anyway, but I think the difference is the gap in talent. So like in most years, this year is a deep year, but in most years that you have a AJ DeBoncha, a Darren Peterson, that's usually the line. That's it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? As far as like superstar phenoms that, you know, are going to go to the league right away and make an impact or whatever the case may be. So I think that's the other part of it, because we were talking about this when we were talking about the tanking. You know, in the NFL draft, I can draft a defensive back at 24, and that could turn around my franchise because I locked down one side of the field. Whereas, you know, in the NBA draft, you know what I mean? Like, you got to get it right once you go to, like, say, number 6. From that point on, you got to get that pick right.
You got to nail it, yeah.
Yeah,
and I guess it makes sense with, like, if you're a player, I wouldn't want to go to a stacked team in basketball because I might not get the minutes that I need.
Also, you know, Gilbert Arenas. You talked about Gilbert Arenas, what he was saying.
Yeah.
About how he wanted his son to be
high
a man.
School, he wanted to be the man, so he knows when that moment comes. As we talk about USC, like, now you got to step up and be the man because you've been that guy forever. But if you've been on one of these pseudo AAU teams, so I understand the difference. It's just like,
about some of these players,
as far as a fans conversation, I just we don't hear much from the fans, like people just being upset about the NIL deals. Nor do we hear about how much money these guys are getting. Any NFL player, the conversation is like, oh my God, they gave how much money to Bryce Underwood, even though it's like it's a team sport, it's the ultimate team sport. We just seem to have more of a buy-in for the college football player because I think more of us are more active fan in our fandom for our NFL teams than our NBA teams.
Yeah, and think about some of these players. Think about some of these players that we criticize to this day. You know, dudes like Cat, you know what I mean, who was on a college team with Devin Booker, and, you know, like the Harrison twins and Tyler Ulis. And even though he was the best player on the team, we see it now when we get to the NBA, and it's like, why is this guy so passive? Like, he's talented. He's got all this going on. Or, you know, you look like, are you talking about Sean May? Like, but you know, but like a lot of these people, like a lot of these teams and these players, NIL isn't necessarily going to be as big, because in college basketball, I could just grab one player and that changes the whole fortune of my team. And like you were talking about earlier, you brought up Wally Zerbiak. You know, what he was doing at Miami of Ohio, I don't necessarily have to pay top dollar to have that type of impact. Or, you know, what's my guy's name? Fred VanVleet, you know, with Wichita State. You know, like, they didn't, if NIL was around then, Fred VanVleet probably wasn't getting a lot of money, but that team went undefeated, you know, in the regular season. Yeah. So, but whereas in college football, look at Duke right now, right? Darian Mensah went to Miami. He's getting this $10 million or whatever it is. And now Duke is going to be, you know what I mean? Like, their season is pretty much done before it even gets started. And I think that you see less of that in college basketball because, you know, there
one or two guys.
Right. And there's only 5 dudes on the court at a time. You know what I mean? So like, and everybody can do an individual thing. Like, this guy can rebound. This guy can play defense. Whereas in football, you know, I need you to be precise on this route.
Everybody has to do everything together all at
once. Right, in unison, You know what I mean? So I think that plays a part in it too. And then, like I said, the media and popularity of it, you know, like, people just care about football a lot more than basketball. Like, hell, like, it's, you know, like we say this every year too. Baseball's about to start in about 3.5 weeks.
Yeah, the World Baseball.
And I ain't hearing nothing about baseball right now.
Because baseball only caters to, like, their fans, their individual.
I mean, granted, I don't watch a lot of, like, sports shows and all that kind of stuff like that because I try to stay fresh.
They're not talking much about it. They're probably talking more about a guy. They talked about Zion's eating habits more than they talked about baseball.
Well, I saw somebody. I don't know if it was a famous person or if it was just a regular person that was on Twitter the other day, and they were saying, like, here we are, NBA playoffs a month away from starting, and Nick Wright is talking about how many games the 49ers are going to win next year. You know what I mean? Like that's just the state of sports right now. You know what I mean? But also while we were at it, you know, Mr. Logical, while we're talking about college football here, we wanted to talk about what we would do to these conferences if we were in charge.
Absolutely. So you want to pull up like my light's so advanced. Let me pull up my data here. Of course.
Yeah. So I'll get us started then while you do that.
Yeah.
I'll just go one conference and then you could jump in with any changes that you have, or you know, we'll just keep it that way. So that way we ain't doing this for like 2 hours. But so I'm gonna start with the ACC. You know, so I ended up with 10 team conferences. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I ended up with 10 team conferences. So right now we have about, counting Notre Dame, we have roughly 64, 65 Power 5 schools. So these aren't all power conferences. I mean, they are in my eyes, but you know, I got 80 of them right here. So starting with the ACC, I'm going kind of old school with this.
We're using the Josh Pate's conference on his idea. We're just ripping
we're just making up our own. So so my ACC, I have Virginia, Duke, Florida State, NC State, Clemson, Wake, North Carolina, Georgia Tech, Miami, and I'm bringing back Maryland.
So you said Miami, Florida State,
Virginia, Duke, NC State, Clemson, Wake, UNC, Georgia Tech, and Maryland. That's my 10-team ACC. Maryland should have never left in the first place. You know, just go look at the Big Ten record, for example. That'll show you exactly what you need to see. And no disrespect to Jersey, but Maryland has basically become Rutgers.
Yeah, I like it. I agree with that one. Because, you know, like I've been a big anti-cross country. You on one ocean, but you play for the other ocean. I've disliked it the entire time. I didn't think USC should have been in the Big Ten. I think Oklahoma and Texas and SEC is another travesty. So this list was right up my alley. Soon as I saw it, I was like, I never understood the rush of why they went to the format that they did, as if college football is going to lose its popularity. The money, like I just feel like the money was going to be there. I feel like Texas is
but think about it, right? So okay, so we talk about the Big Ten and this $7 billion TV deal, right?
Okay, so now with your Big Ten, and we'll talk.
Hold up, real quick. Hold on. Okay, yeah. So my Big Ten, I got Ohio State, Michigan, Illinois, Iowa, Indiana, Purdue, Michigan State, Wisconsin, Minnesota, and then I added Missouri.
Okay, so your Big Ten has 11 schools.
Oh, did I do 11? Damn it, I can't count.
You have 10? No, I'm just making sure.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. No, that's 10.
Okay.
I kicked Northwestern out. I have Northwestern as an independent.
Okay. Because they're just a law school.
You said it, not me. But to your point, so with the Big Ten, the $7 billion TV deal, what would that TV deal be without UCLA and USC, that Los Angeles market, second biggest market in the country, the Seattle market, and then Oregon's football program, you know, with the stature that it's climbed to? Instead of $7 billion, I don't know if they crack $1 billion.
Oh, you definitely still crack $1 billion.
I don't know if they do.
Maybe 5. Maybe it's 5 instead of 7.
No, I think that LA market is worth about 3 of that alone.
And maybe the Pac-12 or the Pac-10 gets 3.5 to 4 billion. It's still plenty of money for what you are doing. That's what is like. I think your Big Ten that you slayed out with Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, and 7 other teams even though Indiana just won the national championship, because I don't think the TV deal factored in Indiana's rise when they made the deal a few years back. So now that you have Indiana, you have 4 teams, and next year there's going to be a reasonable argument for each one of those 4 teams to be in the final 12 and or in the final 2 competing for the national championship. I think that's enough for your TV deal. Your fan base is huge with the 3 blue blood franchises. Your fan base is loyal with the rest of them. So maybe, yeah, you don't get that LA, you don't get that West Coast market, but most of the people in America live east of the Mississippi anyway, which is where most of your schools are. So you're still going to get, like I said, you might not get 7 billion. You might get 5. But it's still 5 spread over 10 schools.
You're losing the LA market, though.
Yeah,
like that's a big part of why they got that deal.
Yeah, but you're gaining on your other deal you already had. It wasn't like
but to your point,
and LA was the thing that made the deal actually happen. You already had a very, very good deal in place with 10 to 12 schools splitting the money, and then on top of your Nike deals. I think you're getting enough money, considering that you weren't even paying the players when you negotiate these deals. So it's like when you negotiate these TV deals, you weren't even really planning on sharing this money. So you're getting
their last deal. So the deal before this one was 6 years, 2.64 billion. And this deal is 10 years, 7 billion.
So you said how many years? 2.6.
It was 6 years, 2.64 billion.
6 years, 2.6. So $400 million a year.
So now, like, just adding
and now you're
that LA market and that Seattle market gave you 5 billion.
Hold on.
See, that's what I'm saying. Like, LA is the second biggest market in the country. So like, and you're counting on, saying Rutgers, for example, even though they're not really any good, you know what I mean? They theoretically bring the New York market. Maryland brings the Baltimore, DC market. In Seattle. So the Big Ten with LA, they added the second biggest market. Seattle's number 14. And Portland is number 22. So they added 3 top 25 markets, including one, that's, like I said, number 2. So without that, they might have maybe got 4,
They were getting $410 million a year with the other deal when they had just the cluster of Big Ten schools. And then now they're getting $700 million. Yes, I get that as a huge chunk of money. But as far as me as the fan, you had 10 schools splitting $410 million. Now you have 16 schools splitting, was it 12? So divided by 12.
Yeah, it was 12. Yeah, it was 12 because you still had Maryland and Rutgers.
So now you got 700 million divided by, what is it, 18 in the Big Ten now? Or 16?
I think it's 16.
We'll go 16. Now you're getting 43 million. So you got $9 more million, and you completely ruin the geographical, like, it's history of college football for $9 million a school.
No, they got 18. That's right. They got 18.
All right, so times 16 divided by 18. 38. They got $4 more million.
Yeah, and then
add all those other schools. $4 million.
And then, but when you factor in the gap that they have on conferences like the ACC, I don't know. Like
I said, I think the money grab didn't grab that much money.
So as of this last year,
like you ruined all the rivalry games. You ruined all like the history. They're leaning towards basically turning the college football regular season into the NBA regular season.
As of this last year,
laying game down.
The last fiscal year, Big Ten schools paid out $75 million each.
Well, like I said, unless the math works out differently, like
You know what I'm saying? Well, you got to factor in the TV deal, the playoffs. You know what I mean? Like, there's other factors. So, like with the ACC, right? That was what made Miami have such a great year because the ACC decided this year that you keep all your playoff money instead of splitting it. You know, whereas the Big Ten still splits it, so you still get money.
Check, in my opinion. That's meritocracy right there.
I'm with
money.
it.
Yeah, I just don't like.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But I'm just saying, you know, so like my Big 12, you know, I put my Big 12 back together. You know, I put Nebraska back in. You know, Oklahoma is back in. Texas is back in. A&M is back in. And I got Texas Tech, the Kansas schools, Iowa State, and then I added Louisville and Cincinnati.
I like it. I like it. I like it regionally. You have games that stretch from, you got Oklahoma, Kansas that border each other. Iowa is just east of there. Nebraska's in that mix. You got Oklahoma State in there as well.
Yep.
You have Missouri in
the Big Ten.
In the Big Ten.
Yeah.
And you said you added who?
I added Cincinnati and Louisville. Well, Cincinnati's already in the Big 12, but I added Louisville.
I like it. I mean, these states touch. Yeah. Like, if you had to take a bus, it's not a crazy bus ride, but if you had to take a bus from Stanford to Charlottesville for a football game because you play in the ACC and planes are down, that's a ridiculous drive.
Yeah. So then I got a little crazy and I made up a Rocky Mountain Conference.
Ooh.
You know what I'm saying? So I got Colorado, Utah and BYU, Arizona State. And then this is where it gets wild. Boise, UNLV, Colorado State, and North Dakota State.
God damn, Mike, I think you need a new job.
That's
just outstanding because it's like it's enough history and intrigue, and it gives the Arizona schools an opportunity to play different competition. I don't really think they fit in with the Pac-10. I always felt like they were a little behind the California schools.
Yeah,
I just felt like Arizona has good football programs, but most of that state is not a lot of people. It's not a lot of people outside of Phoenix and Tucson. And I think that them trying to compete with the California schools to either get recruits to come to Arizona and play or just getting their in-state guys to play, I always felt like they were at a bit of a disadvantage. A lot like Utah. I think Utah has to recruit California well, but people they live from Ogden to about Provo.
Yeah.
Most of that state isn't really flush with football talent.
So then, of course, I bought the the Pac-12 back. So I got Cal, Stanford, USC, UCLA, both Oregon schools, both Washington schools. But then I added, and Cal and Stanford would never go for this because they're the snobs that value education and you're not as good as us. So I added San Diego State and Fresno State in there. You know what I'm saying? Like, we'll see how Gavin Newsom feels about that. But that's what I decided to do.
It literally writes itself. Like, you have every school on the Pacific Coast. You can play all your games, and they are top-tier quality schools. Oregon's a top-tier. Watching the Huskies just play the national championship. USC history, UCLA history. It's like you have your history mixed with your up-and-coming. And I feel like the current conference alignment is just, we want to take all the historical rivals and all the blue bloods and all the teams and conferences that have been, perennial, like the top teams for years, and we'll just all put them in one conference. But we don't get Texas versus Alabama every year because now they're in the SEC because there's only a certain amount of games you can
There's
play.
so many teams,
So many teams. So it's like you're putting them in this, conference to where we're gonna have the same argument with Texas A&M not playing all these other teams.
Well, yeah, because
like the number
they
one
haven't
seed.
been to. Was it Georgia? Georgia hasn't been to A&M since they joined the conference. Texas A&M's never been to Kentucky, and A&M's been in the conference since 2011.
Yeah, so it's like when you act like I think you took a bit of the soul out of what college football could do because now San Diego State as a standalone school mixing with I think they're at the WAC or they moved to the Mountain West.
They were Mountain West and now they're going to the Pac-10. I mean, I'm sorry, the Pac-10. Yeah, the Pac-12. There you go.
Yeah, so Oregon State, Washington State, UCLA, USC. Those 6 schools are your probably most marketable Pac-12 names as far as good football programs. Cal and Stanford are just good academic, just good collegiate programs all overall. They're just good quality programs. And then you mix in your Fresno State, San Diego States. Now it allows a smaller school like San Diego State, Fresno State, it might be same as far as like student population, but now it allows them to compete with these other schools, get their program up, get their TV deal money to where now they can build up their program. So now we have formidable teams throughout each region versus our current situation where the SEC is getting stronger every year. The Big Ten's getting stronger every year, and everyone's just joining them just to get the cash that comes along with it, but leaving their region in the dust. Like a good college football program at Cal or Stanford might ramp up the high school programs in that area.
Right.
And now you're getting more talent that stays in your state. You're not competing with Alabama or Tennessee to get the top quarterbacks in California shouldn't be going to Alabama or Tennessee to play football, where California has the weather to air it out. You can't air it out in some of this weather that you get in different parts of the country. Going to Illinois, trying to throw 50 passes a game. I could throw 50 passes a game in, Berkeley.
Yeah, so the SEC, I kicked out Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt's an independent now. So I got Bama, Auburn, LSU, Georgia, Tennessee, Florida, South Carolina, Kentucky, both Mississippi schools. Sorry, Vandy. You know what I mean?
They lift right out. And I think I'm pretty sure they don't mind, especially if they can get that BYU, Notre Dame kind of treatment with their scheduling.
Maybe.
Like, hey,
they don't have the name or the tradition of those schools,
let us figure out how to get that path popping. Like I said,
you know what though?
San Diego State in the Pac-12 is like, let us figure out let us use some of your esteem to raise our stature.
Yeah, but if I'm say UCLA or somebody, right? I'll go to Nashville, for a recruiting trip, for the SEC geography. They can see me and see my team. So then I created the Big East. I brought back the Big East. So I got Pitt, Syracuse, BC, Virginia Tech, Rutgers, West Virginia, UCF, USF, and then UConn, because it wouldn't be the Big East without UConn. And Mr. Logical, I dropped in the Nittany Lions.
Penn State in the Big East over Villanova?
Well, Villanova doesn't have a FBS team.
They have a decent football program.
Yeah, they got a real good program, but they're not FBS.
I got an athlete in the house that's been talking to one of the coaches.
If we had relegation, I would probably substitute Villanova for UConn, but since we don't, and it kind of goes back to Joe Paterno because he was the one that originally had this Eastern Conference idea that we talked about with Jay Paterno when he was on our show. Where he wanted to lock down that Eastern Seaboard and have the regional conference there, but the Big East was so basketball focused, which is Syracuse, Providence, Seton Hall, so on and so forth, Georgetown, that they just didn't. They rejected his idea. So, but that's my Big East. I added Penn State in. I brought Virginia Tech back with West Virginia so we could have our Black Diamond rivalry back. Rutgers is back in the fold. USF and UCF, another rivalry that should be played but is not right now. The war on I-4, they call it.
Yeah, I knew you would nail it because, like I said, you know me, my feelings on like the current realignment. I think your format, if there was a committee, could be presented, and if they were so focused on the money, if they could just make the money work, I don't have a problem with anything you said. I don't have a problem when you put any school. I like the Rocky Mountain one. I probably like that one the best because
you ain't gonna like my next. You ain't gonna like my last one because my last one I had to pull a couple of G6s up again. You know what I mean? So.
Listen, I'm all about like the Cinderella getting the punch, the stepmother at the ball.
Yeah. So my last conference was the Southwest Conference, which of course, was one of the conferences that merged with the Big 8 to create the original Big 12. So I got Arkansas, TCU, Houston, SMU, and then this is where it gets a little off kilter here. Baylor, Memphis, Rice, Tulane, and UTSA.
It'll take UTSA a couple of years to kind of get their footing.
I left Hawaii out. They're like I was just trying to do bigger conferences.
You can make them independent.
Hawaii could be an independent, but they would probably just be in the Mountain West.
Geographically, they're probably independent because I can't imagine that flight.
Yeah, well, they're joining the Mountain West again for full sports coming up here soon. They put their basketball in the Big West for a while, but they're coming back home to be with the Mountain West again. So my independents are Vanderbilt, Northwestern, Notre Dame, and I brought back Army and Navy as independents.
Yeah, I have no notes. I think you nailed it. I think you nailed it from a fan standpoint. I think you nailed it from a competitive standpoint. I think the rivalry games that you allowed that are just going to be part of the schedule now. I think you probably created new rivalries with the smaller schools coming up trying to prove themselves in the bigger conferences. I think we're going to lose it. We as fans are going to lose the rivalry game because I remember the BYU Utah route. It wasn't going to be played for a while. Like they played, and then I think somehow it got legislated where they brought it back. But the expectation was we're not going to play it. They were like, "Oh, we're just not going to play it." It's like that's the whole thing. Like no one sat down and said we're going to play a 0-week game where it's just rivalry week. The 0 rivalry week, and then the end of the season one, like start off the year with the rivalries. Like there's no get rid of the Mercer game, get rid of the
the good thing is
game.
Now. Well, that's the good thing now is that the Power 4 conferences now, starting I believe this next season, they're going to you have to have 10 Power 4 opponents. So now this is where it gets kind of tricky with the ACC. Because the ACC only has they'll probably still play those games, but the ACC that's kind of the thing, right? The ACC has 17 teams, so you can't play 9 conference games for everybody because you don't have the even number. So what's going to happen is there's 5 teams in the ACC that are going to play 8 conference games, and everybody else is going to play 9. So now, if you're a school that is on that 5-game schedule, you got to play 2 out-of-conference Power 4 teams. You know what I mean? So, like, for example, this year, you're Florida State. Florida State's one of the teams, and you can catch all this on chopchat.com, by the way. I got a new article coming tomorrow that's going to go over teams that Florida State should schedule in the next couple of years with this new rule. But anyway, you got this year with Florida State, they're one of the teams that's playing 8 conference games. So of course you have the matchup with Florida every year that's out of conference. So that's not going anywhere. But this year we have the return matchup with Alabama. So that's our second Power 4 team that gives us the 10 Power 4 teams. So then that gives you room to play a G6 and then one of those Mercers that you're talking about still. But you have to play. And I think that's going to be good because it's making every team play. So we might see some of these games that we've been not necessarily getting, but been wanting. You might get an Oklahoma-Miami game at some point, or, you might get a Georgia-Ohio State during the regular season since all these teams have to play.
Yeah, I would love something like that, but you're probably going to end up more with like a lot of whomever. It's
going to be like Ohio State, Vanderbilt.
Yeah, Ohio State, Boise State.
Georgia against Northwestern.
Yeah, it'll be, Alabama versus Idaho. There it counts.
So we're gonna that starts this season. So I know Florida State, for example, in 2027 and 2028, they have a home and home with Georgia. Right now it looks like that second game, the game in Tallahassee might get moved to Tampa or Orlando. Yeah. But that's the rule now.
Played in Athens.
That's what it looks like right now, unless they move it to the compressor.
We're going to play the first game in Athens and then play the neutral site game, but not play two. Well, I mean,
that's what Notre Dame does. That's what Notre Dame does. They had a home game against you. This was years ago. They had a home game against UConn, and then instead of going to UConn, because UConn only holds about 40,000, they played the rematch at Gillette. So they could get the tickets. So they could get the tickets and all that.
Sales.
Yeah, and that's why Rutgers doesn't play Notre Dame, because at that time Rutgers told Notre Dame, like, no, we want you to come here, and Notre Dame was like, no, we'll play you at MetLife. And and
Rutgers can't sell out MetLife, and
Rutgers, Rutgers,
Notre Dame can't sell out MetLife.
Well, Rutgers, Notre Dame could sell out MetLife.
Not playing Rutgers.
Notre Dame, hey, I'm trying to tell you right now, Notre Dame could sell out the moon if they were playing South Dakota State.
You think that Notre Dame would sell out at MetLife is about 70,000 seats.
Yeah, I think Notre Dame sells out damn near every game they play in.
Yeah, check it, because I just don't know if Notre Dame fans are going to get up for a Rutgers game. Maybe, especially if they're trying to maximize, the NFL
Notre Dame's
stadium money, because I feel like the ticket prices for college football games at NFL stadiums are a bit of a money grab, because they like the NFL, the team that's loaning the stadium out for that day wants a cut. So I think you got to ramp up your prices a little bit. I'm just not sure.
No, Notre Dame. Their home
think it'll be 70,000? You think it'll be 65,000 Notre Dame fans and 5,000 Rutgers fans?
I think Notre Dame, any stadium that Notre Dame goes to, has the ability.
Did they play at Wrigley? Who played at Wrigley?
Northwestern has played. They played at Wrigley because
Michigan at Wrigley.
Yeah, because of their stadium, their renovation or whatever. But no, Notre Dame Stadium. So
did they play at Yankee? Who played at Yankee Stadium? Was it Notre Dame?
They might have in one of the bowl games.
I'm trying to see if that's sold out.
But Notre Dame, like their stadium in South Bend holds 77,000. So like I said, Notre Dame is like, I used to joke around back in the day. I used to refer to Notre Dame as college football university, because no matter how bad Notre Dame is, no matter how good they are a focal point of college football. People will talk about them, whether they should join a conference or not. People will talk about them being overrated if they're in the top 25. People will talk about whether they deserve to be in it. Like, Notre Dame is like the Dallas Cowboys of college football. You know what I'm saying? Like, Notre Dame is that deal. Like, I think that Notre Dame could sell out more games.
That's a good point, Alex. The two worst teams going to a European stadium and selling out. Yeah.
I think Notre Dame sells out probably Like the only schools that I think that can compete with Notre Dame as far as that goes are your bigger SEC schools, Ohio State and Michigan. That's probably the list, of teams that can sell out to the clip that Notre Dame does or get close to that. Because, because Notre Dame has a whole religion behind them at that. You know what I mean? So that's why I don't understand why Notre Dame and BYU don't play more. Like you got the whole religious connotation going on, and
they can't use the name of Holy War. That's the Utah BYU rivalry.
But ladies and gentlemen, just one show this week. So we'll be back next week on Tuesday. We'll go back around the association. Hopefully Jason Tatum will have made his season debut by then. We'll get the playoff picture a little bit more in focus. NFL free agency is coming up. We got baseball coming up. It's going to be time to start getting ready for the NFL draft. It's going down, just like the song say, it's going down. So do me a favor out there, like, review, subscribe, share, rate, do all the free things, do all the good things. Liquid Death in hand. He is the one and only world renowned, cool, calm, and collected. Born in Texas, raised in VA, representing everything New Jerusalem. And now he understands that Notre Dame can sell out MetLife. He is Mr. Logical. And all he asks of you is that you don't bring feelings to a fact fight.
Don't do it.
You know what I'm saying? Don't do it. And then, of course, down here in the Alamo, I'm your unorthodox statistician going left so much you thought I was southpaw. Floyd Mayweather then added a third fight for this year now. So, he better get the ducking. I am 2-5. I tell it how it is. You tell it how it might be. This is Sports Reports is Ordered. We love you. Check us out everywhere you get your podcasts. Don't forget to say less, say more. Check me out on chopchat.com. Florida State articles for y'all out there. Sports Reports is Ordered. Out.
Real talk only, no chasing, no doubt. From the east to the west, it's the order we shout. Mic check, lights flash, game time, stay ready. 2 vets in the zone, keep the pressure real heavy. Big hits, big plays, yeah, we breaking it down. Truth rings in your speakers, every word is the crown. From the north side hustle to that southern flame. Midwest grind, west coast of the game. Sports talk kings, yeah, we wear that crown. Turn it up, let them know it's about to go down. Sports Reports.